This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
It's like the planet Hoth.
It's slick, it's cold, it's really windy, and it's pretty miserable.
Very dangerous situations. These limbs are falling down every minute.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Storm recovery mode. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. From New England to the Deep South, from New York to Pennsylvania, recovering from the weekend's winter wallop is job one for many.
It's like the planet Hoth.
One man's Star Wars take on our winter wonderland, one that was both beautiful and dangerous. At least a dozen deaths linked to it so far. And for millions, it's meant everything from clearing snow to a school holiday, to finding a new flight, to keeping warm until the power comes back on. This man in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, speaks for many.
It's slick, it's cold, it's really windy, and it's pretty miserable.
That's about the size of it. This young man was out shoveling snow in Henrietta, New York Sunday.
It's very hard because the snow, it's so cold that it's super soft, so when you shovel it up, it all spreads out into a billion pieces.
I know exactly what he means there. Though the snow has eased up, the cold really hasn't, and it won't anytime soon.
Bitter cold. That's our weather story this week. Temperatures running way below normal. Perspective-wise, note the normal high temperature this time of year generally is in the 30s in our region. We'll see highs in the teens to around 20.
And the bad news from meteorologist Kevin Williams, his forecast straight ahead. That's the scary sound of power lines arcing against tree branches in Tennessee. They still have almost 250,000 homes and businesses there without power.
Very dangerous situations. These limbs are falling down every minute.
That's Tennessee's Governor Bill Lee. Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, among the hardest hit states. This official telling CBS.
With the temperatures not likely to get above freezing, it's more likely that things are going to get worse before they get better.
We'll have more on the situation in our area later in this newscast. A thaw in Minnesota? Well, way too early to say. But President Trump says he had a good talk this morning with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz about the volatile situation there, inflamed by this weekend's second protester death in a confrontation with ICE agents. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota.
Leavitt says that path includes Walz and other leaders turning over all criminal illegal aliens currently incarcerated there and having local authorities cooperate with ICE in apprehending illegal aliens wanted for criminal activity. The White House again says Walz initiated that call this morning. Trump is also sending his border czar, Tom Homan, to Minnesota with orders to take control of the situation and report directly back to Trump. Will the squabble on ICE funding freeze the federal government? It's starting to shape up that way, with Democratic lawmakers making the rounds on weekend talk shows saying they'll risk a shutdown to block DHS funding for ICE.
The goal is to get ICE training and the mechanisms of which they are carrying out their acts under control.
Well, I'm not giving ICE or Border Patrol another dime, given how these agencies are operating.
New York Democrat Chuck Schumer says lawmakers should vote separately on DHS funding, but GOP leader John Thune said today he won't allow that ahead of a January 30th deadline to keep funding the federal government. Elsewhere around the world, 30,000 plus. That's the new number of reported deaths among protesters in Iran during the Islamic regime's violent crackdown on anti-government protests there this month. Some observers say we're getting pretty close now to the U.S. military striking Iran, including Michael Allen. He's with the Beacon Global Strategy Group. He tells Fox News.
I think that President Trump still will have to do something militarily. He has put American prestige on the line. The death of 34,000 people is unconscionable. It won't necessarily lead to regime change.
The aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and other assets are now pretty close to the region. U.S. Central Command Admiral Brad Cooper arrived in Israel over the weekend as well for meetings with top Israeli security officials. Iran's leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is reportedly hiding in an underground bunker in Tehran as evidence of the potential U.S. strike plans increase. A big shakeup in China. Sounds like a Tom Clancy novel as a top general is booted out.
Ostensibly for violations of Communist Party discipline and state laws. But the Wall Street Journal reports General Zhang Youxia is accused of leaking nuclear secrets to the U.S. and accepting bribes.
CBS's Vicki Barker. That general was viewed as Chinese Premier Xi Jinping's right-hand man. Some health news for you next. New research sounds an alarm on an old threat, a diet too high in sodium from processed and restaurant foods as a major factor in death and heart disease. Experts say Americans consume about 3 times the recommended amount of sodium.
Americans get about 75% of our sodium or salt from foods that are processed. So they're in a package that we buy at the grocery store.
Former American Heart Association President Dr. Daniel Jones. Some economic news next. Where do you think the economy's headed in the short term? Well, a member survey by the National Association of Business Economists paints a fairly optimistic picture for the coming months. Higher sales and fewer labor shortages.
Pretty much people are sticking with what they have. It's just kind of this no hire, no fire environment.
Survey analyst Lester Jones. And Samaritan's Purse is out with totals for their 2025 Christmas shoebox campaign. The ministry says 12.2 million of those boxes were packed, each headed anywhere from jungles to deserts to big cities and remote villages. Recently, more than 1,000 Chapra children deep in the Amazon rainforest of Peru heard the gospel message for the first time because of an Operation Christmas Child shoebox delivery. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, a recap of the day's top area stories and highlights from today's issues in education.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. It's just going to be very cold tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Clouds in and out with flurries. Areas of Lake Snow will be mainly confined to regions along the south shore and east end of Lake Ontario. Otherwise, just minimal dustings here and there, a few inches in the lake effect. Low temperatures tonight, single digits below zero in spots. High temps tomorrow, teens. High temperatures Wednesday, teens to near 20.
All right, Kevin, that's the way it is. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Buffalo's new mayor, Sean Ryan. You can add him to the list of Democrats who are not planning to have their city cooperate with ICE enforcement.
Federal immigration enforcement is creating fear and confusion in communities that have helped Buffalo grow. We've known for a long time they're not targeting violent offenders. They're not targeting the worst of the worst. The federal government is changing the rules of the game.
Ryan today issued an executive order prohibiting the use of City of Buffalo personnel and resources for any federal civil immigration enforcement. However, he says that does not apply to criminal enforcement. Well, we've heard plenty today about the downside of this weekend's big snowstorm, but there's an upside or two as well, of course. Winter conditions, a perfect setup for ski resorts and snowmobilers across upstate New York.
It's been a pretty fantastic season to date so far.
That's Dash Hegman with the Holiday Valley Ski Resort in Ellicottville. That's in Cattaraugus County.
By and large, we've just been firing on all cylinders here. It's been awesome seeing so many skiers and riders getting out and enjoying all this weather that we've been getting.
Snowmobilers faring pretty well so far this season. Last year, they only had enough powder for 15 to 20 days of good snowmobiling. They've nearly had that number already before the end of January. And there's a Pennsylvania snowstorm story with a very happy ending indeed. A baby delivered in a tractor trailer while the flakes were flying. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
Firefighters helped deliver the baby during the snowstorm yesterday in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. According to Goodwill EMS on Facebook, crews from Citizens Fire Company number 1, Boiling Springs Station, helped with a high-stakes delivery of a baby in a tractor trailer. Their escort? Not a police squad car, but a South Middleton Township plow operator that responded to the scene and navigated the roads in front of them. Mom and baby are doing well. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Oh, what a story they'll have to tell one day. Thank you, Sarah. Up next, highlights from today's Issues in Education. It's our Bob Price with Dr. Ralph Kerr from the Teaching and Learning Institute in Houghton, New York, hashing over some of the top topics in the world of education, starting with the City of Buffalo schools trying to boost sagging student attendance by holding a lottery that would give cash awards to students who miss one day of school or less for an entire month.
What do you think of this idea, Ralph?
Well, we've talked about this before, paying students to go to school. I have some very serious questions about it, and I'm not sure whether having a lottery is going to make it any more attractive. And I did hear one parent who was really feeling kind of angry about it. He said, my son goes to school regularly. There isn't an absentee issue with him, but he doesn't have an opportunity to earn $1,000. I hope it works because their attendance in Buffalo is really poor. Yeah. And obviously there's benefit for the district because they get attendance aid for every student that is in attendance at school. So it's worth a try at least.
Yeah, kind of an interesting concept there in Buffalo. We'll see how it works out. This was a big story last week in New Jersey. Governor Phil Murphy, one of his final acts was to require schools to teach cursive. So it's in effect in about 25 states now. New York and Pennsylvania do not have cursive writing mandates on the books. Should they, Ralph Kerr?
There are pros and cons to this. Some people say that learning cursive improves retention and comprehension and engages the brain in really good ways. On the other hand, other people say, listen, everything is digital right now, and what difference does it make whether somebody actually can write cursive or not? It's funny, I mentioned this to my wife, and she said, well, they have to be able to at least write their signature.
Yeah, that's true. Who can read the signatures? For me, it's more being able to read historic documents like the Declaration of Independence or some of those other documents. But I'm sure you probably could get those in a digital form too, could you not?
I'm sure you could, yes, absolutely.
Well, hey, who says there's no such thing as a free lunch? Pennsylvania wants all students to have access to free lunch. Ralph, is this a good idea? Free lunch in Pennsylvania?
I really think it is. 1 in 8 Pennsylvanians experience food insecurity. And so there is research that says that if you don't eat well, you end up having a higher absentee rate. But one of the downsides of this is that parents have to apply. You have to declare your income. And some parents just react to that. They're concerned because they're giving some pretty private information to who knows who. But the other thing is that in the past, some federal grants have been based on the level of free lunch. That's actually been a penalty for some districts because they have low participation rates. Yeah. So I think that would be an advantage to going to free lunch for everybody.
You bring up a great point with that. Back when I was in school even, you knew the kids who got free lunch, there was like a stigma associated with them.
Absolutely.
All those kids from the other side of the tracks. And I guess this would eliminate that. Would be a good thing. While we're talking food in school, my favorite subjects were gym and cafeteria. This is a big story. RFK is big on this, his eating real food agenda. Your thoughts on bringing whole milk back to school cafeterias?
Well, this, as you said, is a recommendation from the Make America Healthy Again Commission. Back in 2013 was when the restriction first went into place to say that schools, they have to serve fat-free or 1% milk. And I think it's probably a good thing to go back to the whole milk. I happen to love cereal, and I love whole milk on cereal.
Oh, yeah.
I think that most kids would like that as well. There's an increased butter fat content, obviously, in the whole milk, and apparently that's an advantage to farmers. So I think overall it's probably a good thing, and I hope it works out well.
Thank you, guys. Dr. Ralph Kerr with our Bob Price on today's Issues in Education. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
We often think stewardship is about doing more, but sometimes good stewardship begins with stopping. Hi, I'm Rob West with the Faith and Finance Minute. Rest is one of God's earliest gifts. Before Israel had laws, leaders, or land, God gave them the Sabbath, a weekly reminder that their lives didn't depend on constant striving. And the same is true for us. When we fill every hour and ignore our limits, we start living as if everything depends on us. It doesn't. Rest sharpens our decisions, strengthens our relationships, and guards our hearts from believing that productivity is the measure of our worth. When we rest, we're reminded that provision comes from God, and that renewed dependence is what allows us to steward our time, energy, and resources with wisdom. Discover the best Christian financial articles, podcasts, and videos by visiting our website, faithfi.com, or by downloading FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store.
Thank you, sir. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, high school students learning to fix cars, along with some far greater lessons. After Weather with Kevin.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. In the wake of the storm that deposited 10 to 24 inches of snow across our region yesterday and last night, cold is the main weather story moving forward for this week. However, going to keep our eyes on what could be another East Coast storm risk as we head into the weekend. The jury is still out, still lots of time to watch and monitor. We'll do just that. In the meantime, it's just going to be very cold tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Clouds in and out with flurries. Areas of Lake Snow will be mainly confined to regions along the south shore and east end of Lake Ontario. Otherwise, just minimal dustings here and there, a few inches in the lake effect. Low temperatures tonight, single digits below zero in spots. High temps tomorrow, teens. The high temperatures Wednesday, teens to near 20.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Finally at 5, high school students learning to fix today's complex vehicles. That's impressive enough. 11th grader Tyler Shelton tells WTVR.
We're learning about all the electricity of the car and how the wiring works. This class teaches you, if you can't figure it out, you just got to keep trying. Like, it teaches you that failing is okay, just fail good.
But it's what they're doing with that knowledge that sets Virginia's Louisa County High School Auto Tech program apart. Several vehicles they restore each year are then given away to students and single moms in need. It's done in partnership with a ministry there called Giving Words, born after founders Ginny and Eddie Brown went on a missions trip to Honduras.
We started bringing our cars in and having students go through them, get them ready. So far, we've given over 60 cars away. We've repaired over 260 cars.
Young Tyler Shelton says auto repair is a lot of hard work, but that the payoff, giving those rehabbed cars away, makes it all worth it.
The last one we did, we roll up the garage door and like the moment of surprise, like you have to be there to see it. Giving something that someone needs, it feels good.
Driven to a different kind of success at Louisa County High. And that's the world we live in for Monday, January 26, 2026. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.